In 1975, a Brooklyn classroom made America fall in love with four boys and their teacher. 50 years later, one became the biggest movie star of the 1970s. One walked away to become a poker champion. One turned his father's dying breath into television's most famous laugh. And two died the same year, 7 months apart. This is where all of them ended up. Number 1 is John Travolta, the swaggering, gum-chewing Vinnie Barbarino, the king of the Sweathogs, the kid whose only real ambition was combing his hair. Born on February 18, 1954 in Englewood, New Jersey, he was just 21 years old when the show premiered on September 9, 1975. By the end of the first season, teenage girls were showing up at ABC's studio in Los Angeles just to scream at the sound gate. Here is what most fans never knew about how it began. His mother, Helen, a drama teacher, begged him not to take the role. She warned him he would spend the rest of his life being called a dumb Brooklyn kid. He signed the contract anyway. She was half right. Carrie premiered while he was still filming Kotter. Then Saturday Night Fever earned him a Best Actor Oscar nomination at 24. Then Grease made him the biggest box office draw on the planet. By the middle of season 3, he was making 100 times more per film than the show paid him per episode. Then the losses started. In 1977, his girlfriend Diana Hyland died of breast cancer in his arms in a Los Angeles hospital. He was 23. He carried her ashes with him for years. In 2009, his 16-year-old son Jet died from a seizure on a family vacation in the Bahamas. In 2020, his wife Kelly Preston died of breast cancer at 57. By 1993, Hollywood had written him off. Then Quentin Tarantino called, and Pulp Fiction earned him a second Oscar nomination at 40. Today, at 71, he lives in Ocala, Florida with a private runway to his own Boeing 707. Vinnie Barbarino was the loudmouthed king of the classroom who thought he had the world figured out. John Travolta was the boy who really did have the world at his feet, and who spent the next 50 years losing the people he loved most, one by one. Number 2 is Ron Palillo, the nasal, hand-in-the-air, wheezing Arnold Horshack, the misfit whose laugh became one of the most quoted sounds in American sitcom history. Born on April 2, 1949 in Cheshire, Connecticut, he was 26 years old when the show began. And here is the secret behind that famous laugh that almost nobody in the audience ever knew. When Ron was 9, his father developed lung cancer. Ron sat beside his hospital bed for months, listening to his father struggle to breathe. When his father finally died, Ron was 10. Years later, at the Kotter audition, he reached back into the worst memory of his childhood and pulled out the sound of his father dying. Every studio audience that ever screamed at that noise was hearing an echo of a little boy sitting next to a hospital bed. He had trained in Shakespeare at university and dreamed of playing Hamlet. Instead, he became one of the most permanently typecast actors in television history. The 1980s destroyed him. He rarely left his apartment for months at a time. He agreed to celebrity boxing in 2002 out of desperation and was beaten unconscious in the ring by Dustin Diamond, the child star of Saved by the Bell. He described it later as the lowest moment of his life. Then he went back to what he loved. He directed regional Shakespeare in Florida. He wrote a one-man play about Adolf Eichmann. He moved to Palm Beach Gardens with his partner Joseph Graham, whom he had been with since 1971. He taught acting to teenage students at G-Star School of the Arts, and they adored him. On the morning of August 14, 2012, Joseph found him. Heart attack. Arnold Horshack was the funniest laugh in the classroom. Ron Palillo was a heartbroken little boy who turned his father's dying breath into the joke that made America love him. Number 3 is Robert Hegyes, the half-Puerto Rican, half-Jewish wisecracker with the endless note forgeries from his mother. Born on May 7, 1951 in Metuchen, New Jersey, he was 24 years old when the show began. He was one of the first genuinely mixed-race characters on American network television. And here is the strangest fact about how he got the role. Robert Hegyes was neither Puerto Rican nor Jewish. He was half Hungarian, half Italian, and a distant cousin of the opera singer Mario Lanza. He had auditioned for Barbarino, not Epstein. He did not know Travolta had already been cast. He rode up in an elevator with the producer and Travolta himself, and only put it together on the way up. He was given Epstein instead as a consolation prize. It turned out to be the role of his life. He directed episodes of Kotter at just 25 years old. He played Detective Manny Esposito on Cagney and Lacey for 4 years after the show ended. He raised 2 children with his wife Kathleen and returned to New Jersey in the 2000s to teach screenwriting at Rowan University in his old college town. His students called him one of the best teachers in the school. His last public performance was a staged radio play in early January 2012, where he channeled the ghost of Chico Marx one final time. 3 weeks later, on January 26, 2012, Robert Hegyes died of a heart attack in Metuchen, New Jersey, the same town where he had grown up. He was 60 years old. 7 months later, Ron Palillo followed him into the same year of loss. 2 Sweathogs gone from the same cause in the same year, both in their early 60s. Number 4 is Marcia Strassman, the warm, sharp-tongued Julie Kotter, the wife of the show's lead, the heart at the center of the chaos. Born on April 28, 1948, in New York City, she was 27 years old when the show began. She was already a working veteran by then. At 15, she had replaced Liza Minnelli in an off-Broadway musical, and by 25, she had played Nurse Cutler on MASH. 5 actresses tested for the role of Julie Kotter. One of them was Farrah Fawcett. The producers said Fawcett was too beautiful to convincingly play the wife of a comedian who looked like Gabe Kaplan. Marcia got the job, and she hated every minute of it. Producer James Comack ran a psychological war on his own set. He told Gabe Kaplan that Marcia wanted him fired, and told Marcia the same about Kaplan. Neither was true. When Marcia finally figured out what was happening, she and Kaplan went public with the story, together on The Tonight Show. She never forgot it. She spent the next 30 years working steadily. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in 1989, and its 2 sequels became her best-known post-Kotter role. And then, in March 2007, doctors found breast cancer that had already spread to her bones. They gave her 2.5 years. She lived 7. She wrote a memoir called Life with a Side Order of Cancer. She raised money for research until the very end. Marcia Strassman died on October 24, 2014, at 66 in Sherman Oaks, California. Julie Kotter was the calm, patient wife who held everyone else together. Marcia Strassman was the toughest person on that entire set, and she stayed tougher than the cancer they told her would kill her in 2 years. Before we go on, tell me, which Sweathog was your favorite as a kid? Barbarino, Horseshack, Epstein, or Boom Boom? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Number 8 is Lawrence Hilton-Jacobs, the smooth, athletic Freddie Boom Boom Washington, the coolest Sweathog in the room. The kid who pretended to play the bass and hummed his own bass lines until the nickname stuck for 4 seasons. Born on September 4, 1953 in New York City, he was 22 years old when the show began. His breakout was the 1975 film Cooley High, which came out the same year Kotter premiered. And here is one number about him that nobody talks about. Lawrence Hilton-Jacobs appeared in every single one of Welcome Back Kotter's 95 episodes. Not Travolta, not Palillo, not Hegyes, not even Kaplan, who created the show, made it to the end. The only Sweathog who never missed a class was Boom Boom Washington. After Kotter, he played Noah in the historic miniseries Roots. He played Joe Jackson in The Jacksons: An American Dream. He sang backup vocals on Rick James's Street Songs album. Eddie Murphy named the housing project in the PJs after him. In 2019, he was cast as the lead in the streaming drama A House Divided, which ran for 5 seasons on All Black. In 2021, at 68, he earned an NAACP Image Award nomination for that role. He is 72 years old today and still working steadily. In a 2021 interview, when asked about his old co-stars, he paused and gave the answer that summed up everything. "A lot of people are gone now. It is just Gabe, John, and me now." He said it quietly, and then he went back to work. Number 5 is John Sylvester White, the burnt-out vice principal Michael Woodman, the administrator who had given up on students like the Sweathogs a decade before Kotter ever arrived. Born on October 31, 1919 in Philadelphia, he was 55 years old when the show began. He would be the first main cast member to die. Here is what makes his story stranger than any character he ever played. He had walked away from acting for 18 full years in the middle of his career to work as a salesman. He came back at 52. 3 years later, he was Mr. Woodman. Travolta later said White was the only trained actor on set who gave the show its credibility. There is one piece of trivia about him almost nobody knows. His wife, Joan Alexander, had been the voice of Lois Lane on the 1940s Superman radio series. 2 of the most famous supporting voices in American entertainment lived quietly under the same roof for decades. After Kotter ended in 1979, John Sylvester White retired for good and moved to Hawaii. He never gave another interview. He never took another role. He died of pancreatic cancer in Waikiki on September 11, 1988, at 68 years old. He never came back to the mainland. He never wanted to. He spent his final years walking the beach at sunset, watching the Pacific, and living the quiet life Mr. Woodman would have envied every day of his life. Number 7 is Stephen Shortridge, the smooth southern Beau de la Barre, the replacement Sweathog the producers introduced in the show's dying 4th season when they realized Travolta was leaving for good. Born on October 23, 1951, in Red Oak, Iowa, he was 26 years old when he joined the cast. He knew it was a losing role from the day he signed the contract. And here is what almost nobody remembers about the man they hired to replace John Travolta. He was an All-American water polo player at Idaho State University on a full athletic scholarship. He had never planned on acting. In his first painting class in college, he discovered he could draw. That single class shaped the rest of his life. The Kotter role went nowhere. The audience never accepted him. He kept working for another decade. Fantasy Island, The Love Boat, A Year on the Bold and the Beautiful, a small part in Cameron Crowe's Say Anything in 1989. And then, at 38 years old, he walked out of Hollywood and never came back. He moved to Idaho. He started painting full-time, vibrant, romantic impressionist landscapes in the style of Monet. His work has been collected by Patty Duke, Donna Summer, and Rick Dees. He held gallery shows across the United States. He published a book in 2011 called Deepest Thanks, Deeper Apologies. His wife of 41 years, Kathy, died in 2017. Stephen Shortridge is 74 years old today, still painting in Idaho with his 4 grown children nearby. Beau de la Barre was the outsider hired to save a dying show. Stephen Shortridge walked away and painted his way into a second life more beautiful than the first one Hollywood ever gave him. Number 9 is Gabe Kaplan, the wry, patient Gabe Kotter himself, the teacher who returned to his old Brooklyn high school to save the class of kids nobody else wanted. Born on March 31, 1945, in Brooklyn, New York, he was 30 years old when the show premiered. The character was named after him. The show was his idea, and when it was over, he walked out of Hollywood and became one of the most successful poker players in the world. Here is the strangest fact about him. He had wanted to play Major League Baseball for years and could not even make a minor league roster. He drifted into bellhop work at a New Jersey resort hotel, watched the touring comedians in the lounge every night, and slowly figured out he was actually funny. He built a stand-up act around his own memories of growing up in a Brooklyn remedial class. 5 appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson brought ABC to his door. He hated what the show became. Producer James Comack manipulated the cast against each other. Kaplan broke his own contract in the 4th season and appeared in only 8 of 23 episodes. When it ended in 1979, he could have taken any offer in Hollywood. He took none of them. He never returned to a regular sitcom. He never once appeared in a Kotter reunion special. He moved to Las Vegas instead. He won the main event of Amarillo Slim's Super Bowl of Poker. He hosted the television series High Stakes Poker on GSN for 6 seasons. His verified tournament winnings exceeded $1.9 million. His private cash game winnings were reportedly several times that. Gabe Kaplan is 80 years old today with an estimated net worth of around $50 million. Gabe Kotter was the tired teacher who believed in the kids nobody else believed in. Gabe Kaplan was that stubborn about himself and quietly built the kind of second life almost nobody in Hollywood ever manages. Number 10 is Helaine Lembeck, the smart, no-nonsense Judy Borden, the honor roll student who clashed with the Sweathogs, briefly tutored Barbarino, and delivered one of the show's most quoted lines, "I'd rather be glued to a tree." Born on April 16, 1952, in Los Angeles, California, she was 23 years old when the show began. She appeared in 13 episodes across 4 seasons. Her father was Harvey Lembeck, the legendary character actor of Stalag 17 and the Beach Party films, and one of the most respected comedy teachers in Hollywood history. Helaine was Hollywood royalty from the day she was born. After Kotter ended in 1978, she kept working. Charlie's Angels, Doogie Howser MD, Suddenly Susan, Malcolm in the Middle, and films like Wild Hogs and The Time Traveler's Wife. But her real legacy is what she runs today. Along with her brother Michael Lembeck, the Emmy-winning director of Friends, she is the artistic director of the Harvey Lembeck Comedy Workshop in Los Angeles, the school her father founded that trained John Ritter, Robin Williams, and John Larroquette. She has been teaching there for 40 years. Helaine Lembeck is 74 years old today, married since 1984 with 2 children. Judy Borden was the outsider who clashed with the Sweathogs. Helaine Lembeck was the quiet daughter of comedy royalty, whose fingerprints are on every sitcom you have ever loved. Number 10 is Helaine Lembeck, the smart, no-nonsense Judy Borden, the honor roll student who clashed with the Sweathogs, briefly tutored Barbarino, and delivered one of the show's most quoted lines. "I'd rather be glued to a tree." Born on April 16, 1952, in Los Angeles, California, she was 23 years old when the show began. She appeared in 13 episodes across 4 seasons. Her father was Harvey Lembeck, the legendary character actor of Stalag 17 and the Beach Party films, and one of the most respected comedy teachers in Hollywood history. Helaine was Hollywood royalty from the day she was born. After Kotter ended in 1978, she kept working. Charlie's Angels, Doogie Howser MD, Suddenly Susan, Malcolm in the Middle, and films like Wild Hogs and The Time Traveler's Wife. But her real legacy is what she runs today. Along with her brother Michael Lembeck, the Emmy-winning director of Friends, she is the artistic director of the Harvey Lembeck Comedy Workshop in Los Angeles, the school her father founded that trained John Ritter, Robin Williams, and John Larroquette. She has been teaching there for 40 years. Helaine Lembeck is 74 years old today, married since 1984, with 2 children. Judy Borden was the outsider who clashed with the Sweathogs. Helaine Lembeck was the quiet daughter of comedy royalty, whose fingerprints are on every sitcom you have ever loved.